Welcome, and this is the Marketplace. So we're going to actually continue with the discussion here on the Marketplace of the Minister of Finance's mid-year review of the supplementary budget that he just presented in Parliament. Thank you very much, Chanchahini, for that one. We'll just continue with that here. The Minister made a lot of proposals, and he gave reasons as to why those proposals must be met, and therefore the Parliament must approve some money to continue with the agenda that they're actually continuing. He did indicate a lot. One which actually caught my attention also has to do with the fact that now from probably next year onwards, Ghana is going to have a new law which is going to mandate banks to sort of give away or put in a special fund all outstanding money in their account that don't have owners, especially those who've actually died and they still don't have their account is still staying in the books of the various banks. We'll be looking at that in detail here. And also there's this possibility of microfinance companies also having an apex body as the rural banks are having to regulate the activities of it. So the hullabaloos, the ups and downs of the industry is also curtailed. We're looking at that here also in detail. So today's program is not going to be that structured as we've always been having for you on the market. We're going to speak to a lot of analysts who will be giving us some perspective as to exactly what it means to do this supplementary budget. Are we really on course or not? All these and more we are looking at here on the Marketplace. That's the continuation of what Chanchahini did. We're taking a short break. Marketplace returns after. You're welcome back. Still continue with that after the discussions of the effect of this budget just read by the Finance Minister. We are linking up to Parliament, where my colleague George Jaffe is standing by with the Deputy Finance Minister, Mona Kolte, to actually get. George, welcome to the Marketplace. And what do you have for us?
In terms of fiscal consolidation.
Thank you very much. That was Deputy Finance Mona Kolte. Has been going to be prudent.
We're trying to sort of get a better connection for you there. So as and when we link up with George, we bring you update from Parliament as to what the ministers are saying, what exactly the members of Parliament are also saying to do with the supplementary budget just presented by the Finance Minister. Like I was actually indicated earlier, one of the critical areas he actually looked at is to the fact that your money sitting down there, or your relatives' money sitting down there in the various banks that are not really being given to you because you don't have some legal documents, and people don't even know that their relatives will have some of those amounts in the banks very soon. It's going to be compulsory and mandatory by law for the banks to release that money to all these. So exactly, so we'll be having that in detail. Also be linking up with exactly. So generally, the Finance Minister did give indications saying that a lot of benchmarks that they set for themselves, especially to do with it, is not really the best, especially to do with the crude oil prices. They set out to actually achieve averagely in 2016 about $53 per barrel, and on the average they've been having close to about 38. So we have that. Just watch this before we proceed.
With our smart borrowing programs, in particular to increase infrastructure development. Our real debt management strategies include escrow and self-financing programs, which to date has seen institutions like the Ports and Harbours Authority, Airport Company, and lately Metro Mass being able to take loans on their own balance sheets for the first time in many years. Restraint on borrowing through prudent quotas, notably when GDP growth declines or becomes slow.
Now we do have George Jaffe there speaking to Marcus Ibrahim, an MP there. So let's link up with George. George, what do you have for us?
The donor partners, international community have lost confidence in our economy. That's why the IMF is not disbursing the fourth tranche. Now, if the IMF does not disburse, donor partners will disburse, the World Bank will not disburse. So we seek to raise about $400 million from the international community. It's not coming in. So there's lack of confidence in the economy, and that's what's translating to a non-disbursement by the fund.
Honorable, I have to hold on quickly because I have another honorable here with me, the Honorable Minister of Employment, Harry. So for you, let me first ask you, what do you make of the presentation by your colleague Minister Setekpe when he presented the supplementary budget to Parliament a few minutes ago that it ended?
Very encouraging that government through the Minister of Finance is resisting fiscal temptations, and notwithstanding that this year is an election year, government is keeping to fiscal prudence. It's encouraging to hear the debt sustainability measures put in place by government yielding some good results. With a few years ago, you personally were concerned about Ghana being declared debt risk distress. Certainly, absolutely. So today we are at 63% of GDP, which is quite encouraging, not at 72 as it was post HIPIC. And what is significant is the management of the debt risks. You now have Gapuha, Ghana Airport Company, and many state-owned enterprises now borrowing on the strength of their balance sheet. That is a new paradigm in terms of debt management. The minister has also related to the public unprecedented development in infrastructure, which is to stimulate and make facilitate. He's also indicated a number of major policy initiatives, including the Ghana Infrastructure Fund, the transition of EDIF Exim Guarantee into the Ghana Exim Bank for export financing, which is what he announced as a new hope for the Ghanaian private sector. Once we target exports and once we target the private sector of Ghana with more friendly and general support, the private sector can grow through the Ghana Exim intervention, which is now law, akin to what pertains in China and India in terms of export financing and increasing it. And then also compensation as a percentage of GDP and revenue has also improved over the years.
Let me come to your... Before this presentation, there was talk about allowances to nurses. There was talk about dealing with some allowances for some educational sector. I thought on that. How are you with these?
We are currently dealing through the Commission matters relating to category 2 and 3 allowances. In respect of teachers, there is a policy decision to validate in the Auditor General in order to eliminate and reduce fraud. We're not going back on that policy principle, but that has occasioned some backlog, and we are dealing with the backlog in terms of the teachers. The arrears will be paid, and we have also cautioned and warned that they should obtain financial approval and clearance before appointment. With the issue of the nurses, the HR division of the Ministry of Health is dealing with it. It's more an HR problem than a finance problem. What we need is to avoid the repeat of the past, where doctors and nurses will pass out and not know what to do and earn their legitimate income within 3 or 4 months.
How do you convince people in the public sector the fact that you're working with budget? Because it looks like there are demands coming up, whether they are fresh demands or arrears. And the finance minister has announced that there are going to be some cuts.
You were in Washington with me when we negotiated what is now called the MEFP of Ghana, and you know for sure that an erroneous impression has always been as if in Ghana there is a freeze on public sector employment. The health and education sector are exempt, even in our dealings with the IMF 3-year program. So we can't recruit employed within sectors of health and education. I will deal with that. Yes, thank you.
So that was the Minister of Employment and Social Welfare, Idris, who explained some issues to us and what they're planning to do to ensure that they keep within the envelope and manage any serious public agitation in roundup or in months leading to the elections. If you've just joined us, this is our coverage for the 2016 supplementary budget that the Finance Minister presented to Parliament some few minutes ago. Just a quick recap. The Minister talked about the fact that they are seeking approval to spend 1.8 8 billion Ghana cedis to spend. It doesn't necessarily mean that they will see the 43 billion Ghana cedis going up for this year. That will not happen. Also, the fact that they are introducing some new measures to try and keep within the expenditure, so we won't see the public debt ballooning. Some electronic payment systems that they're planning to put in place to ensure that they keep within the budget. They also talk about the fact that all other things being equal, the International Monetary Fund will meet on August 29 to actually review Ghana's performance under the program. That is based on meeting certain critical targets set in the IMF program. And these were some of the issues that we talked about. Earlier on, I engaged a member on the Finance Committee, Dr. Sibe, who also thought that, listen, this was nothing new. These were the same things that has been rehashed, and therefore he doesn't expect that this will revive the confidence that we're looking for to try and engage investors out there or to convince donors that indeed they're on track to stay by they are on track, and indeed that's the belief that they are looking for. That fiscal that we are talking about indeed would happen for this year. This is our coverage for the 2016 presentation of the supplementary budget by the Honorable Minister of Finance, Seth Tepe.
So that was my colleague George Wiafi there, right there in Parliament, bringing us up to speed on what exactly is going on, taking some perspective from members of Parliament and other experts gathered there. Now, we're moving on to another expert who is a lecturer at the University of Cape Coast, Dr. John Gachi, to also give me exactly what he thinks about the budget as it's been reviewed here in Ghana by the Finance Minister. Doc, you're welcome to the marketplace.
Thank you.
Exactly. 1.88 specifically is being sought. Additional money is being sought. And one of the reasons given by the Finance Minister is to do with the fact that as they projected, things have actually turned out to be different, especially with oil revenues, because they said they targeted almost about 53 point something dollars per barrel, and it didn't really go that way. So they've actually revised downward to almost about 45 thereabout. What are some of the implications of this?
Well, the first implication is that we are now setting petroleum prices, taking into consideration what is actually happening in the market, as opposed to just looking at the formula design in the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, which may not respond quickly to what is happening in the market. So we are now looking at a benchmark price that is reflective of the market condition. And that also means that the projected revenue would not be met. Also bearing in mind that we have some problems with the FPSO, so we are going to have a problem with respect to production volumes, and at the same time the price that have been captured from the beginning of the year have been reduced now. So revenue projection will also be reduced accordingly. What it means is that some of the projects that have been earmarked to be executed through petroleum revenue may not fully be executed. So the lifespan of some of these projects may be elongated as a result of this development.
Okay. Now, we are revising downwards as a result of we are demanding extra money to project or prosecute our development agenda, basically. Some have called for some diversification of our oil revenues. Is it not just straight to the point, the fact that Ghana, as a matter of fact, should also be looking at other ways of actually harnessing our oil revenues than to really focus on the international, because the international market today is quite volatile and unstable?
Well, diversification is good, but diversification may come from two fronts. That is adding value to your oil before you sell. But we do not have that capacity now. Those capacities, if we intend to do that, will take some years to come by. But we can also diversify the utilization of the oil revenue, especially so when our stabilization fund and the heritage fund are not allowed to be invested in the domestic economy. So you have huge sum of money locked up in some investment outside the country, yielding very limited interest, but you still have a lot of need of funds to finance your key infrastructure in the country. So these are things that we should look forward to work on. Of course, some people will argue that it also provides a shield in terms of our reserves, international reserves. But I believe that there is the need for us to diversify the use of these two funds, by which some percentage can be invested outside the country and some other percentage be invested in the country in safe investment within the country, and that can also cushion the economy as we go along.
Okay, as we look at the downward trending of oil prices at international market, we also look at the implications of our energy generation here in Ghana. He did also indicate the fact that some few projects will come upstream very soon, especially with the 10 and the Sankofa project, will be coming on 2017 and probably 2018 respectively. What does that also mean to our economy and also to our energy sector?
Well, it means that the energy sector still has some risk to the economy that ought to be worked on properly. But what is indicated is actually focusing on the medium-term prospects, which have been carved out about 2 years ago. So it looks like the medium-term prospects still, of course, but what is very important now is how to regain productive activity in the country by energizing the power sector of the country for people, for individuals, for businesses to get access to continuous electricity to engage in their productive activity.
So until then, we are still going to suffer that backlog, or what we call the differentials. He also made mention of the fact that government is supporting the importation of almost about 400 tons of oil to support this activity. I mean, can you bring that to speed? What exactly it means to the economy here in Ghana?
I think it only means that some of the current challenges facing the energy sector has to do with acquisition of crude to generate energy. So that is going to provide that kind of protection for the sector, because now you will have available supply of crude oil to power the plants which we have across the country, so that the limited capacity that we have as a country could be utilized effectively.
Okay. Doc, I would want to hold you here. I'm linking up to Parliament to hear what Honorable Afenyomakin has to say about this particular budget just read by the Finance Minister. Let's link up. When we are back, I'm sure we're going to touch base with you back again.
That's fine.
Let's touch base with the Afenyomakin, exactly what he's saying to do with this particular budget.
For policy credibility, this is not a serious government. We need a change, and Ghanaians have called for that, and I'm sure come December, that is what Ghanaians are going to get, a change of government. This government is incompetent and is unable to do what is expected of them for the benefit of the people of Ghana.
So that was Honorable Afenyomakin expressing his view here. Another member of Parliament here, Honorable Boniface Gambila, sorry, he's also an MPP member of Parliament, if I'm right. For Namdam, for you, people are arguing that it's just that no matter how the government dances, it doesn't look beautiful for you. That's the sense that you're getting for whatever policy the government puts out, whatever program the government puts out. And that's why we're getting this posture from the opposition party.
People may be right and they may be wrong. So there is no right, there is no wrong in this situation. If you look at 37, Circle, there is a project going on, okay, overhead project. If you go to Kaswa, they are doing something. If you look at the Rich, they're doing the Rich Hospital. Okay? What does that mean? The implication of that is that we refer to President Mahamad's talk that when a government says it is constructing roads, it is building houses, it is building bridges, and all those constructional things, building schools, it is an exercise in mediocrity. Why did President Mahama say so? He said so because he concluded by telling us that it is a normal government responsibility. So building of schools, building, construction of roads and bridges and hospitals, according to President Mahama in 2008, it is an exercise in mediocrity because it is a normal government business.
So that was another interview there by my colleague George Riafe there. But we thank you very much, George Gachi, for your time here on the marketplace to actually gather some perspective in there. But keep watching Joy News. We're giving an extensive coverage of this supplementary budget program here on Joy News. My name is John Kojo Amuakon, and this has been the marketplace. You can, for more business stories, you can log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Have a very wonderful afternoon.